What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sam Adams here, and we are smack dab in the middle of the fall season, which means a lot of games are going to be coming out over the next couple of months. And as I've been thinking about all of these launches, I realized just how little emphasis we tend to put on the launch of games. What I mean by this is, as I was thinking about it, the success of a game's launch can directly affect the performance of that game in sales and also in the popularity amongst the community as a whole over its entire lifespan. Basically, the launch of a game is just as important as what's in the game itself, to some degree. We can attribute this to the fact that people, for the most part, tend to develop an opinion of games and other forms of entertainment based on what other people say, and launch days are just another example of this. Basically, what I mean is that if a game gets a lot of pre-release coverage, if it gets a lot of people at a midnight release, if there are pre-order bonuses, if there's a lot of stuff leading up to the launch and available on launch day like Day 1 DLC that gets in the news, a lot more people are going to be willing to buy it. And if a lot more people buy it, then obviously a lot more people are going to be talking about it, and this will lead to a longer lifespan of the game. This is where we get companies like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes and IGN, pretty much any video game or movie reviewing company you can think of. All of these people are around because we base our opinions off of what other people say. Unfortunately, that's a growing trend in society, but honestly, there's nothing we can do to change that. So whenever I think about the launch of a game, I can think of 4 different types of launches that you can use to determine how well that game is going to perform whenever it finally does actually hit stores. So let's go ahead and get into number 1. So number 1 is basically the Drive Club / Battlefield 4 launch. These are the worst kinds of launches you can have. What happens is that they release a game prematurely whenever it should have been delayed and it should have been fixed. They chose to go ahead and ride it out and try to fix the issues last minute. As we saw with Drive Club, they are still trying to roll out servers and server updates so that people can actually play the game. And Battlefield 4 had a span of about 5 months where it was basically unplayable. And you could also say that the game was just extremely broken. Either way you look at it, neither of these games were fit to be released at their time of release. And this is one of the worst launches you can possibly have. Not only is it extremely detrimental to sales, instead of a racing game, whenever people see Drive Club, they now associate the title Drive Club with crappy release and ultimately crappy game, even though this game looks beautiful and I'm sure it plays amazingly. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten the chance to try it because the PlayStation Plus edition was never released. As far as Battlefield 4 goes, it managed to regain its foothold in the gaming industry somewhat, but be that as it may, had it had a smooth launch and a smooth DLC launch and no hiccups whatsoever, Battlefield 4 had the potential to be even more popular than Battlefield 3 was on the Xbox 360. And unfortunately, DICE missed the shot on this one, and they were not able to be better than Battlefield 3. Next up, we've got a Titanfall style release. Basically, whenever Titanfall was first being, shown off, the game had been built up for months and even years to some degree. A lot of people were looking forward to this game. The amount of advertisement that was put into it, there were a lot of product placements where it was, it would be on a bag of Doritos, stuff like that. And whenever this happened, a lot of people got excited, and it was even rumored to be the forbidden COD killer that the prophecies had foretold of. And even though when the game came out it was completely functional and all in all a 100% complete game, unlike Drive Club and Battlefield 4, people were still disappointed just because companies had built Titanfall up and then in the consumer's mind as the end-all be-all of first-person shooter games, and unfortunately it just didn't live up to the hype. Although when the game finally came out, it was good, and it still is good, all in all, it just didn't live up to the hype that the community had set for it, and that pretty much set it up for a long-term failure. Next up, we've got Brink, and if you remember Brink, I applaud you because not a lot of people do. Basically, Brink came out in 2011, and it was an extremely hyped-up game. There were TV commercials for it, and if you see a TV commercial for a game that is actually on the television, people are looking forward to it. Basically, it was going to be the first game to combine multiplayer, co-op, and campaign all into one online experience. And it was also going to combine elements of a first-person shooter with, parkour elements like Mirror's Edge, and that was something we had never seen before. Unfortunately, when this game was released, it just didn't flow properly. The parkour it felt very clunky, and all in all, the game just had an unpolished feel to it, and it ended up having a price drop pretty much instantaneously with its release. And this is a very, very unfortunate kind of release to have, because a lot of people were looking forward to this game. And although it was a complete game, unlike Drive Club and Battlefield 4, it still didn't live up to the amount of entertainment that Titanfall had, which is why it has its own category as the Brink-style release. Finally, we have the kind of release that every game developer wants their game to have. This is the Grand Theft Auto 5 release. And if you have never heard of Grand Theft Auto 5, sweet Jesus, where have you been? Personally, I had never seen more anticipation in the gaming industry than when Grand Theft Auto was being released. Basically, everything you saw in every corner of every website that had anything to do with gaming touched on Grand Theft Auto at some point. And this was pretty cool because it gave this air of, oh my gosh, this game is finally coming out. Even if you had not been into Grand Theft Auto 4, you were still looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 5 just because of how much people were talking about it. What differentiates this from all of the other types of launches that I have mentioned is that this game not only had the hype, it also delivered, and boy did it deliver, and is delivering still today with the release of the new generation versions. This game was absolutely beautiful, the story was amazing, the graphics looked great, it played well on all consoles, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 at the time, and all in all, it completely lived up to all the expectations that everyone had had. This can be seen because it made $1 billion in the first 3 days of its release. Wow! So those are the 4 kinds of launches that I could personally think of off the top of my head. If you guys have any more, leave them in the comments below so I can take a look at them and you can share them with the community. But all in all, it's very important that we take a look at games from our perspective as opposed to other people's perspectives. Basically, pick our games based on what we individually like. That's where the diversity of the gaming community originates from. But it is also an interesting coincidence that a game's performance can almost be predicted by the kind of launch that it has, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. So if you like this video, give it a like down below. Remember to comment if you have any other types of launches that you have floating around in your brain, so we can all take a look at those. And if you get a second, head over to my channel and check out some of my other content. I tend to post a lot of videos, and I almost guarantee there is something you will find entertaining. So, I thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.